So maybe the thing that you need to do is to release the idea that I have to take this job and, I have to put up with it, and begin to cultivate in your mind the idea that you would like to have. And, dwell on that, build up the consciousness that it is available to me. Because the truth is, if I can think of it, it already exists for me. But like the person who lives in a small room and doesn't go out, if we don't step outside to see that it is, I will never know that it is. And I will be putting up with all kinds of stuff, thinking I have to take it. And there comes a point when you have blessed something enough, and if it hasn't, you have grown. You're always growing. I know you are, because you're always consciously advancing. So you may advance beyond situations that you're in. You've got to realize that. So there may come a time when the situation that you're in, not only is it not serving you, it's restricting you, because you need to get free. So I would say that you should spend your time building a consciousness of, if I didn't think that I needed to take this, what do I really want? If I knew I could have the optimum situation, don't forget your great capacities. So the universe is much better served by you when you are doing them. We have to know these things about us. That's why I say you have to know yourself. You have to know your position in this world and what attributes you have. The universe is much better served by you giving of the great wealth. And if you're willing to, then you can release the old form. You see? You can release the old form, because I'm willing to consciously give of that higher good for the world that I have to give. So if I'm willing to give at that level, I can have at that level. So once we're willing to give at that high level, then we do expect that the compensation, Emerson talks about the law of compensation. If I am giving at a high level, then I shall be compensated by the universal mind, God, appropriately. And when I'm doing my divine purpose, I am absolutely doing the utmost good that I can do. So no one has to take less unless we believe we have to take less. We be willing to serve in all ways that we're called upon to serve, but if we ask for guidance. If something has outworn itself, then God, I am willing to let this go. Any and all persons, places, things, forms of service that are no longer part of the divine plan for my life. And you guide me, and you help God guide you by dwelling on then, if I don't need to do this, let's say you've already worked it out and there's no need to do that, what would I be doing? This is another great way to accelerate yourself. So often we think of the goal right in front of us. That's our vision, is that far. But a great question to meditate on is, after you've seen yourself in the goal, like we did open this way, ask yourself, if I had this goal that I have in mind, if I had it, what would I be doing? What would be the next thing for me? And bring that next consciousness in the now. It will, because if you will look beyond the current thing and say, supposing that's already done, it's already accomplished, what would be next for me? You will expand your consciousness, and the good is accelerated. You bring it into the now. What else accelerates? Intense desire. We must desire to establish good for yourself. We can't say, oh, I can live with it another year. You've got a desire to get your good now. Your life depends upon it. Your eternal life, certainly. Because the more good you can establish in the now, the greater you can keep establishing, right? So you accelerate yourself by not allowing your desire of the Father, the highest ideals to weaken. Why? Because something went bump in the night? I'm not going to weaken my desire because of that. Because so-and-so, what and such? Oh no, I'm not weakening my desire for that. And I'm speaking of desire in the sense of passion, not in the sense of as the yogis say, have desirelessness. That's our word for detachment. But I'm saying we must have that all-consuming passion for truth, for God, for freedom, for liberty, for good, to have the will, the force to bring it through, right? So you should look in there, and if you have acquiesced, then you have not resurrected. We have to resurrect ourselves. We have to bring out those things we put in a tomb somewhere and packed away and said, well, I'll just live with it. We have to bring it out, right? The first way to start is go clearly, I like this. Let's just supposing I don't have to do what I think I have to do. That's what it comes down to, right? I think I have to do something. I've spoken my word, okay? I now suddenly become aware that I do not have to do that. Okay, I'm free. What would I like to do? What is the thing that I really want to do that would bring out, and this is the way, by tuning your mind to the highest idea, you are literally helping the universe form the opportunity for you, right? If I don't give an idea to the universe, what can be formed for me? Nothing, right? So I have to say, gee, what I really would like, all things being great, what I would like is, I'd like an international newspaper. I'd like to be doing this. I'd like to be doing that. Whatever. See, we forget because of the conditioning. So we're drawn right back in. All right. There is no good reason ever for anyone to suffer at all, for not the least degree. And we should try to get out of that attitude and catch it in ourselves if we're thinking I have to suffer. Because you can be free and happy and not suffer when you know what you want. We must know what we want. Say, well, God will take care of it, but who is God? God is you. God is within you. So we do our part by thinking in terms of that and then healing those ideas. In my book, I have a lot of techniques for how to heal these, direct techniques. Heal the idea that I have to suffer, that there's good to suffering. I can't imagine that Divine Mind would create you with your consciousness and then, isolate you to restricted conditions, because the capacity you have is to lift people very high up. So I believe that, you have to heal that idea. No, God has it for me. Oh, absolutely. God is the perfection, not the something okay, just okay, the perfection of my supply, which is perfect and harmonious with me. That means with your, resonates with you. You take a break? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to try to get through all 12. We're on 6. Okay. The 6th, and this is the unexpected income. And remember, but the purpose of this program is to get you in a state where, where you become more free about it and know that your income can be spontaneous. So the program is based in that, although the principle applies everywhere, right? So the lesson 6 is getting to realize the limitlessness, how important identification is. Now, if you want to be able to work the divine abundance, the prosperity, and all that is, you must start identifying, letting go of the old identity with your history, your past, and so on, and now begin to identify with that which is the limitlessness. I live in a limitless system of good, for instance. All good is limitlessly available to me. We begin to incorporate this in our inner dialogue with ourselves, right? So we know the universe is limitless. We know the mind, universal mind, is limitless in its capacity, and that mind is our mind. That mind is our mind. So we identify with the limitlessness, the omniscience, omnipresence, omnipotence. And when we identify with these qualities, which are our qualities, but we have to re-identify consciously with them, we have to wake them up, so to speak. When we start to identify with that omniscience, omnipresence, omnipotence, we become one again. And we become further individualized, more aware of who we are, and we leave that territory of separation. Your subconscious mind, which is the creative power of your life, is one with the infinite, is one with God's mind, the universal mind. Everything that is created in your life is created through the power of your universal subconscious mind, which is all intelligent and has all capacity and know-how to do, and is the servant of spirit. So that's why I can say, I would like a whatever, and then on some invisible plane, the subconscious is working. It's one with all the omniscience, omnipresence, and everything. And it knows how to do whatever to perfection in perfect right ways. It is the infinite intelligence of God. So realizing that your subconscious mind is one with the creative power of God, you must know every time you make a statement of identity like I am one with the wealth of God, I am sick, all the power of the universe backs up your word, because your subconscious responds and just makes it so. And that's the way it works. So we want to be, that's why we want to be most careful. This is a statement, the universe doesn't know a joke. It doesn't, you know. So we want to be most careful that the words that we place into, that the subconscious is listening all the time and taking the instruction, that what we want to place in there is the highest and best, and what we'd like to see manifest in our life, right? Okay, so we have to cure the ideas that living in the state of abundance all the time, that is our goal, all the time. Otherwise we have not touched God completely. We want to be living in a consciousness of abundance all the time, curing any idea that this is not natural. We have it upside down, you know. The buildings are upside down, okay? In this world, up until now, when there's a great ascension of consciousness, we've been saying, or it's not, you know, good is not natural. What is natural is suffering and so on. But the real truth, it is that it is the reverse. It is the reverse. It is not natural. And we know it takes many more muscles to frown than to smile. It is not natural. And everything in the universe, if we will look at it, will show us this truth, okay? So we must cure the ideas within ourselves that the law of mind plays favorites, that it has favorites that it likes to endow with abundance more than ourselves, you know? There are no favorites. The law is simply the law, and it responds to anyone who calls upon it for whatever reason. And when we speak our word, we ignite the law automatically. It's just the way it works. So there are no favorites. And these are things, to have abundance in your life, or to increase the abundance that you have, you must realize infinitely that there are no favorites in God. All are favorites. All have the kingdom, right? There is no status that you have to have that makes you more favorable in God's eyes, except the higher your love quotient. Definitely the more favored you are, okay? So no separation. We have to cure the separation ideas of superstitions, that it's magic, that the law, oh, I'm lucky. No, there is no luck, there is only law. There is no chance, there is only law. So, you know, we're superstitious about things, and we need to heal any ideas of superstition and know that there is only pure law and order, and that is what the universe is founded on. There is no monopoly. There is no group who can have, you know, monopoly and oppose you or stop you from having your good. There is no truth to that. There is no truth to that. And so you must know that in God there is no monopoly. And thus, if you come up against a pretense of monopoly, or people who believe they are the monopoly, they are the power, you have to know that that is their delusion. Yet it is not mine. To be free of it. All right? And anything in our language that says, oh, certain sets of people, you know, when we speak words that empower the untruth, for instance, you know, very often when people have money, you know, or very wealthy, people will say, well, they, you know, they did negative things to get it, you know, and they're the power. They're the power. I can't have power. So we have to know that's no power. That is a nothing trying to be something. That is a pretense. That is not real. That is not that is a delusion, and it affects me not. So that which is mine can never be withheld by any delusive idea. And so we say, don't hang out with people who have negative ideas for you. Don't. When you have, seek love, seek loving company, and seek those who want the best for you to be your friends, because those people can be God in your life, you know. All right, so there is no monopoly, and we can't even say in our word, cannot affirm what isn't true in God. I mean, in the face of God, who has all power to obliterate or make things instantly, how can we say so-and-so is power? So-and-so is borrowing some power from the power and not using it well. But that does not have to preclude you. There is no monopoly, no favorites. Supply, the fact of your supply cannot be made a competitive issue because it has been given to you by the Father Most High. Therefore, that which is thine and has thy name on it is always thine. And it cannot be made a competitive issue. So we don't have to compete with one another for our supply because each have our perfection. So we don't have to beat out someone. You know, this idea of victory, that we have to get victory over someone at someone's expense to get our good, you know, or that we believe that someone can perpetrate that on us at our expense for their good. We have to say there is no my supply is not a competitive issue. It's not. It's a given. We just don't play the game, and therefore we do not reap the consequences of that belief. If we believe it, that's it. So it is, right? But that which is true, not true, can be shifted. That which is true, we can't touch. So we can never change the order of the planets, no matter how much we might wish that to be. You know, so God, that supply is the truth for you always, and it's yours. All right. Competition, comparison. The negative or lack mind. Why would I think I have to compete or compare myself with someone else? If I feel I live in a universe of lack, then I think I have to play these games, right? But in God's mind, each one stands unique and complete and beloved, all right? So we don't compete. We choose to bring out our excellence. We're not interested in competition. We're not interested in comparisons. We're interested in individualizing. Emerson said, imitation is suicide. So why are we comparing when we should be finding out, you know, that self-worth list, what my attributes are, what my individuality is, what is it that I have to give that no one else has to do, can be, give, do in the same way as myself. Now, no two thumbprints are alike, and that should just tell you everything right there. Every voice that is recorded, you know, when the police do investigation, record the voice and they can trace a voice. There is no duplication in the tonality of any voice whatsoever. So how can we think that there is duplication or this competition? And realize that that's the negative force, literally, that distracts us. So long as we're caught up in competition, negation, and so on, we're literally distracted from living our kingdom, and we are suffering because we are bound up in that. So we say, I don't compare, I don't compete. You know, I bring out myself, you know, I give, and I see the good in all, I see the uniqueness in all, and there's no ground for comparison. You know, so we might have to heal these, because these are strong race mind, collective buildup of ideas of separation from good, and so many things in our society rest on this idea, and it keeps fostering the negativity. And people are dying from living a life competing for good and trying to get crowns somewhere in the earth when they could have been blissfully living the greatness that they are, free of all of that, if they only knew, right? So we want to live according to ourselves, our own spirit, bring out our spirit and do our thing. And that's a prosperity principle. You know, that's a road of prosperity, doing your own thing. All right, how can I rise above any limitation? By now diligently practicing. You know, faith without works is dead. We're into practical mysticism. We're into bringing heaven to earth right here and now. So I practice through meditation, contemplating the truth, self-inquiry, what's standing between me and my good, what beliefs do I have in there. I have the capacity to heal myself completely, okay? I rise above the past by knowing and living God's truth now, and by bringing it in the moment of challenge, when I can go this way or that. I can respond from my old patterns, or I can respond by affirming the new idea and choosing to stand on that idea, to live by that idea, because I know that must be the truth. I and the Father are one. If I have any other response to anything that goes on in my life other than I and the Father are one, I have missed the mark. Okay? Then I'm not living in the highest mantra. Okay? We don't need to get back from anyone. We let go revenge. You know, these things bind you. Bind your life, right? So we let go needing to get back from anyone. You know, someone appears to steal good from you, or to steal a position or money or whatever it might be. We bless them and let them go as fast as we can, rather than chasing around after them and perpetuating the idea that I have lack and therefore I have to persist after this. We let it go. Realize resistance is just inertia. It's holding on. It's inertia. You know, it's that aspect where we just would rather not move ahead. It's just the inertia. Resistance is just resistance. What are we resisting? The truth. Every one of us knows that we need to become love. We know that. Our soul knows it, right? We know that we need to have divine attributes. We need to have courageousness, truth, fearlessness. We need this spirituality. Even Christ, in the Aquarian Gospels, and also we know in the Egyptian conscious ascension processes in the pyramid, you know, the initiate would have to face circumstances. So, you know, would have to face the fear and conquer it through truth, through a higher principle. Would have to face tremendous attraction and be able to release that attraction. Would have to face the initiates so that they would become divine love, get the seal of divine love, you know, the seal of courageousness. In the Aquarian Gospels, they throw Christ into, you know, Jesus into the Christ, I should say, because we're all the Christ. But Jesus into the pit with all the animals. And they chained him so that he couldn't defend himself. And so Jesus' ascension in that dark hole that they put him in was, you know, what is this chain on my foot? I am spirit, I cannot be bound. And the chains melted. You know, I am one with all that is. And, you know, he demonstrated fearlessness. There is nothing to fear. Where there is God, there is nothing to fear because there's only one. And all the animals became harmonious with him. Okay, and then he comes out of that chamber and they give him the seal, courageousness. Through our life, these are the divine qualities and attributes, if you want to be a master, which I know we all do, that we need to cultivate, right? And resistance, I say be kind, be patient, say I'm in resistance. Don't resist resistance. Do not resist. Say it's here. Well, maybe I need a little rest. Your subconscious is always working. And the resistance will go as we balance ourselves to be inquiring into the goodness of truth. You know, it's all the good of life is in truth. If we inquire into that and we just daily meditate, you know, 5 minutes, don't overload yourself, and keep looking at it, keep looking at it, keep looking at it until you can see it, until the resistance is gone. What have we to lose? We have heaven to gain now. You know, now, not when you drop the body, but now. So look at it and don't love problems. Don't love. This is why I say be willing to release your whole old identity. Well, I've always had tough times getting jobs all my life. Not wanting to release that. Being willing to release that, to express, to really do what you're here to do, which is to express the infinite as you. To bring out the glory of spirit that you are. So you've got to be the one who's willing to throw off the shell and do the exchange. Remember we said something with something. So I don't give away my good, I give away my negatives that I may receive. I give away my old identity, my old sufferings, And you might say, ask yourself, what am I getting out of this resistance? What is it giving me? And it may surface. Remember we talked about that, and you said there was a feeling if I really go spiritual, maybe there'll be harm there for me. So maybe some old memory from some other life or from this life that, if I'm spiritual, I'll become, I can be harmed. So then we have to heal that, to know that spirit is power, and it is all power, and it's the only power that is. I mean, if you can get lions to lay down in the lion's den, isn't spirit power? Isn't love power? Isn't it all there is? So you've got to cure that. Resistance is just the effect. We say everything is a result of a belief. So you come along, you meet a very angry person. Well, they are not an angry person. They are an infinite being who's gotten caught up in anger because of something underneath. So it's never as it appears. There is a cause mentally underneath. So resistance, if someone is very hurt, for instance, through their life, they may develop the attitude of a bully or whatever. And so people say, well, that's a bully. But from our point of view, we know that that person is suffering. And that's the front. That's the result. Right? Just so much as we know that because of our inner state, that, lack out there or that disturbance out there or that whatever is the result of something. It is not the thing. So we don't treat to try to make the person nice, try to make the person rich. We treat at the causal plane to change the inner cause, getting the tree at the roots. Treat is another word for praying, consciously, right? So resistance, realize a person isn't just resistant because they're resistant. There is somewhere in the psyche a reason for that. And everybody is always going after their good, according to them. So if I think I'm going to preserve my life by being resistant, until I uncover the untruth there, I will stay in that behavior because I haven't brought it conscious, right? Do you understand that? So my answer is stay with it. I mean, I fell asleep the first meditation I was at, and I loved it. But I was like a drunk person. I could not believe it. I'm sitting listening to a great speaker, Eric Butterworth. And I'm sitting there, and I'm listening in this massive hallway, right? And I'm going, and I have to keep going like this. I couldn't believe it. Because although I wanted that information so badly, still there was so much stuff that it was not getting, I had to snooze, it was literally like I was passing out. So I say, let it be, because just keep doing it, and there will come a time when all you will know is alertness, which is what has happened to me now. I mean, I could go forever, I could go a long time without sleeping, because there's no fatigue, no resistance. So it will pass. Love will pierce that. We talked about this before, that if you have a place where you stop, we go after our good and we go through things and whatever, but then there comes that place where we stop and we throw it over. That's like a threshold that needs to be crossed so that you can continue all the way to attain your good. So at that threshold, if you notice that as a pattern, you realize this pattern is always working in my life. If it's working one place, it's working everywhere. Now, then you can choose in the instant of that pattern to bring yourself through to your good. Meaning, in this case, the good would be absorbing, the capacity to absorb all that you are, that you want to absorb in the time that you want to absorb it, right? So you should start with, I desire to develop a greater pattern where I have continuity enough that I stay with it until I've got it. And then I rest. Not before I've got it, you know. And you can say, then immediately, if you have a higher pattern in mind, you just start introducing that in mind and say, now instead of stopping short, I now introduce a new pattern, thank you God, where I am able to stay with the thing until I've fully absorbed it, and then I rest. This is also the same in terms of money. Whatever patterns you have, you want to bring them up to the divine level. And it's true, as we rise up, we have to let go of what was there before. And many great leaders know this. You have to be able to delegate work, and you've got to keep freeing yourself so that you can rise higher. One of the things in receiving new good is establish a new level, you know, a more refined pattern. And you establish it, and you put out the vibration. That as you put forth what you do, it is by your word that it becomes so. You position yourself correctly, right? And so, and this is what I do. So we choose, what do I do? You know, I, offer my services to such and such situations for such and such income. That is what I do. And so someone comes along and they says, well, but I'd like you to do something else. Well, then you can make a choice about that. And also, when you want to initiate a new pattern, you must stay with it. You must not, let's say someone comes along and says, well, I'd like you to come work for me, or I'd like you to do something that is anti or not harmonious with that role. Be willing to say no. And go right back to affirming that as I say no to that which is not right for me any longer, that which is right for me can come in. So we do have thresholds, and we have to practice bringing yourself mentally through to the attaining of your goal, your vision. So every time we go to vision, we may get a lot of energy, and we get positive energy about something, but then we don't let it stabilize. We don't fully bring it through. It's something like going out on the date but never getting to the wedding. You want to see that relationship that's perfect. Long after the marriage, what is the essence of it? What's the daily living of it? So that this is a real powerful idea in you, and not just, well, I get to the doorway and then I don't know, whatever, right? So we have to learn to practice to mentally carry our ideas through. And if you want to establish a new pattern, I like to say, if you have a pattern that's not working for you, just ask, inquire. Well, what is the divine pattern here? What would be the pattern I want to bring in? Remember, habits are just habits. You can change them. They're meant to serve you. And a pattern is a habit. And the only patterns we want to keep forever are divine patterns. It's just a habit. We can change them. Right? So substitute the divine pattern, divine idea for yourself, and don't, it's not going to be initiated from the outside. It will be initiated from within you through giving thanks that you now are in this pattern. If I have a habit of not completing things, I then start to say, well, I choose to have the habit that I complete everything I do. I am the completeness of it all. Everything that I approach, I complete to perfection. Thank you, God. This is me. And then all the divine capacity in me, since I have spoken my word, the know-how comes about. And then I also have the power. Let's say I'm involved in something and I want to stop, and I say, wait a minute, I am the pattern, I'm introducing this new pattern, and I pull myself past my threshold so that I am living in the completeness and consciousness, right? So choose the patterns. If you have patterns you don't like and they're not working for your life, and you don't figure that God would be wearing them, choose something greater. Okay? And remember, God's idea for us is freedom. Spirit is freedom. It is not slavery. It is service without servitude. Freedom. I am free. I am free. I am free to prosper.